Hi, everyone. It's Jonathan at the Mon Valley Initiative. Welcome. It's Thursday, February 20th, and it's our first Homebuyer Club of 2025. So it's pretty exciting, probably one of my favorite ones, because we're going to talk with Toni Shorthouse with Citizens Bank. And Toni's on the cell phone today, and we're going to show her presentation and let her explain some things, her knowledge of mortgage lending. And so Toni, you've been with Citizens for how long?
I've been with Citizens for 15 years.
Okay,
It
just
was
getting
15
started,
years
huh?
in January.
Yeah.
And then I've been in the industry there for 27
Okay.
years. So, but yeah, with Citizens for 15. I'm delighted to be here.
Good. Well, good. And we're happy that you're here to help share some of your information. So let me bring up your presentation that you've sent us,
Okay,
and
perfect.
we'll get that started. Technology, I'm not always the best technology wise, but we'll see what we can do.
Well, since my employer has blocked my ability to join the Zoom link, anything can happen, right? But we'll make it work.
It's going to be just fine. Don't worry about that. So good. I got your first screen up here.
Okay.
Just kind of giving some
It,
contact information's in there, right?
it's the one with the orange and the yellow sun. Looks like
A
a.
little sunshine on there. Yep.
Okay, good. Okay. Do you want me to begin?
Yep.
Okay, so we'll just stay on this screen for a moment. Welcome, everybody. I'm so happy that you are able to join the workshop tonight. I'm sorry that I can't see you or you can't see me, but we'll fix that next time, I promise. But this is just screen one. It does provide you with my name and phone number and email, but I'm going to give that to you again as we proceed. So if you could just go to the next screen.
All right. Yep, it's up.
Oh, it is? Okay, great. Okay, so again, welcome. This workshop is really to help you prepare how to buy a home, and really, and I don't have that written here, but it's really to allow you to be more informed and take away the fear. I mean, things that we haven't done before, we tend to be afraid of because you don't know what to expect or what to do, what comes next, etc. So I'm here to try to take some of that away and hopefully allow you to leave becoming more informed. And my goal is always that you learn just one thing from any presentation, but I'm hoping that you'll walk away learning more than that. So having said that, if you'd be kind enough to go to the next screen.
We got it up.
Okay, so the process of buying a home all starts with becoming pre-approved. What does that mean? There's a number of things that you'll be required to discuss, and your lender or the bank that you would like to work with, and we would love it to be us, but I understand it won't always be, and that's totally fine. I have to earn the right to do business with you or to help you, but these are the things that are very common with any lender. So let's just go through them very quickly. So the first step of buying a home is becoming pre-approved, and what that does is it tells your realtor and a potential seller that you are actually qualified to buy a home. So during the process, we talk about several things that allows you and your lender and your realtor know what your price range is, etc. So the first thing we do is we help you fill out a very basic loan application. And it is not any simpler than that. Name, address, date of birth, social security number. Of course, we have to verify that it's you. All the details of yourself go on the application. And quite frankly, through Citizens, it literally takes 15 minutes, if that. Some of you who are very tech savvy can go more quickly. We will also, as will anybody, pull your credit report. And the purpose of that is, of course, being credit worthy. And I'm going to explain really what does that mean. And I don't want you to be worried about that. honestly, because even if your credit is not exactly where you'd like it to be, number one, you want to know where you are. And number two, you're going to want to rely on someone like myself who's going to tell you exactly what to do in order to get your credit score where you might want it to be. Here's the good news. A lot of people feel that, well, they're afraid, but their credit score ends up being higher than what they thought it was. And I'm being truthful about that. Everybody's afraid. So we'll go into a little bit more detail about that in a moment. Employment history. Okay. That tells your lender, your bank, that you are working and you are earning an income, and that income will be verified, which is the very next item on this screen. So we're going to verify by virtue of your pay stubs, W-2s, tax returns if they're needed. They aren't always needed, but we will verify your income. And why would we want to do that? Well, once we see what your current required monthly payments are, in addition to what a new mortgage payment would be, does your income, is it at the level that it needs to be in order to support those obligations? We, meaning the bank, do not want to set our customers up for failure and default. So we go above and beyond to ensure that you are, in fact, well qualified. So in order to buy a home, in addition to qualifying, you will need assets, meaning money that you have saved, or grants through your lender. And we do have grants. I'm going to talk about those that you may qualify for. And I'm going to talk with you about how we do that. But these are the 5 things that we look at in order to help you become pre-approved. And then a letter is printed advising your realtor that, yes, for a home that costs $90,000 and you're putting down $5,000, etc. I made all that up. You'll qualify to buy that home. So again, we talk to one another. The application's online, but I'm going to help you get to where you need to be. So having just done this very brief outline, if you could go to the next screen, that would be awesome.
Let me ask you a question on this one, Toni. So how does this normally happen? Is this a telephone call? Is this online? Do they come and visit you? How do people do this pre-approval?
Well, that's an excellent question, and thank you for asking. I love that. So a lot of people are very busy, and they'd like to do it over the phone, and then I send the application link, and it's done online. Or, well, most people fill out the application online. Okay. Almost 100%. Okay. So once that happens, and I have an opportunity to do the analysis of the credit report, I'm looking at the income, etc. Then we have a phone conversation again. It all starts by phone. Or if they were to walk into the bank and have an appointment with me, I'm happy to do that too. So whatever meets the customer's needs best, I will do. Okay. Over the phone, in the branch, etc. So it starts with a phone conversation, and then I send the invitation to fill out the basic loan application, and then I do my analysis. And then I call back and we talk through what's there. I verify if I didn't quite understand the income, etc., or assets, and then I provide my feedback on what they can qualify to buy.
Okay. How long does that last? How long is that pre-approval good for?
4 months.
Okay. All right, great. Let's go to that next slide then.
Okay.
Okay. So it says qualifying for a mortgage.
That's right. So there's 6 categories, and that's why, I did an initial overview. So employment history, and I wanted to give you an idea as to what most lenders are going to be asking for. Okay. So the first item there is a 2-year work history is required unless you're a recent college graduate. Okay, meaning you just come out of school and you haven't worked. That's totally fine. So if you work, say, 3 years ago and you haven't worked since, the employment history is not going to be able to be met So now there'll be some customers who are on, say, a fixed income, and they're not working at all, but their fixed income will allow them to qualify, and then employment history is no longer required. Okay, but there is a 2-year work history that is required, like I said, except for college graduates. So we're going to verify whether you work for a company, meaning you receive a W-2 at the end of the year, verifying your income, or if you're self-employed, you'll receive a 1099 form at the end of the year, which verifies what you've earned for the previous year. So we just ended 2024 at the end. At the very beginning of 2025. For example, I work for a bank. I'm not self-employed. Citizens provided me with my W-2 that showed my earnings for 2024. So normally we're going to look for 2 years of W-2s or 2 years of 1099s. Again, verifying that 2-year work history.
Yeah.
Now, there could be times where folks are out of work. It could be a medical situation. It could be a number of things. For example, when we went through COVID, as you can only imagine, there were a lot of folks who were out of work for a while. So we look at the reasons that you may have been out of work, and we will evaluate those on a case-by-case basis. Okay. Now, if there will be a co-borrower on the loan along with you, meaning there's 2 of you, or it could be 3 or 4. I mean, I had a loan recently where there were 5 people. There was a husband and wife and mom and dad and a son. I mean, there were 5 people on this loan. So we could have had as many as we might need to in order to qualify. But if there is a second borrower, we will ask for the exact same information on that second borrower to verify credit, income, assets, etc. Are there any questions about employment history?
You know, Toni, I will mention you can change jobs in that 2-year period of time. That's okay.
Of course. Oh yeah, you could have 14 jobs in 2 years. We don't care, as long as because people can leave to better themselves.
Yeah, that's the key.
It doesn't have to. Oh gosh, yeah.
Closer to home, more income, more benefits. Yeah, and a lot of times, what's interesting is when you get a union employee who has 20 1099s over the course of a year. So yeah, so you can change for, let's just say, positive reasons. So good.
Well, there could be a lot of reasons, like maybe that you just didn't like the job and you wanted to change.
Mm-hmm.
We don't judge that. I mean, we really don't. So if you leave from one job and go to the other, so if there's 6 months gap in between, depending upon the loan program, we might have to go to another loan program. All guidelines are a little bit different. But if you leave one on a Friday and you start a new job on a Monday or a week later, I mean, that happens all the time, and you're entitled to do that. So yes, I don't want to make it sound so rigid. You can absolutely change jobs.
Okay, great.
Okay, so the second item is income. And we can receive income in many ways. Okay, so a salaried employee is one where it's a fixed amount every week, no matter what. And all the pay stubs say the exact same. So a lot of people are paid every other week. So in a year, there'll be 26 pay stubs because there's 52 weeks. Every other week, there would be 26. Every pay stub would have the exact same base amount on their pay stub, paid the exact same as salaried. It's an annual amount divided by 26, and that's what shows up on the pay stub. Okay? If somebody is hourly paid, your hours can vary. And so the base hourly rate will be on your pay stub. And a lot of people who are hourly paid still work 40 hours every week. Never changes. Now, people who work 1 week it's 32, 1 week it's 42, 1 week it's 38. It could vary, right? When the number of hours per week vary, we will need a 2-year history so we can average what those hours per week are. So if any of you are paid by the hour and your hours always change, there's nothing wrong with that. But that is when we will absolutely need a 2-year history, or as close to it as we come. I talked with a gentleman today who has been in his job since May of 2023. So come this May will be 2 years, right? So we don't have a 2-year history, but what I did was I looked at both years' income, added them together, divided that by 24 months. So I used a 24-month average, even though we didn't have a 2-year history, to be conservative in order to determine a monthly income amount that I could use to try to qualify him. So it's okay if hours vary, but how we look at it, again, case by case. So that is what we call variable income. What does that mean? It's not the same every week, right? I use the example of 38 or 42 or 40 can vary. So variable income can mean simply that your hours per week vary, need a 2-year history. If we're going to be using overtime, a lot of people work overtime all the time. And I want to be able to use that overtime amount, but again, we're going to need a 2-year history. So if you do work a job where you have the opportunity to work overtime, if say the last 6 months you had overtime, but you didn't have it any time previous to that, well, there's not enough time then to determine an average. A 6-month period is not enough time to be able to use it. So that is going to come into play with overtime or bonus or commission, etc. So a 2-year history is required when we're going to be using income that can change. So when you're self-employed, if any of you are, then of course that income is going to vary from month to month. It's never going to be the same. I shouldn't say never, but it's likely to not be the same. Okay, so that's why when we will require to look at a 2-year history, because that income can vary. Are there any questions about variable versus salaried?
And that would include waitresses, tip income, that kind of stuff as well, Toni? Okay.
Yeah, all that is variable. It's never going to be the same, right? But we could absolutely use it, but we do require the 2-year history in order to determine an average of that income. Okay?
Yep.
So the next item is alimony or child support if you receive it. There are many guidelines about that. But the main one I can say about receiving alimony or child support is you will have needed to receive it for at least 1 year, and it needs to be verified where it's coming from. So if it comes through the courts, that's wonderful. And if it's not through the courts, but we have a separation agreement or a divorce agreement that shows the amount that's to be paid and for how long. I mean, we really do verify. Why? Because we don't want our customers to have the possibility of going into default. That's why income is verified very, very strictly and in great detail.
Yeah.
And it's for your benefit, quite frankly. You don't want to find yourself into a mortgage payment and you really can't afford it. And we don't want you to be there either. Okay? So we also look at full-time or part-time. It's the last item under income. So part-time, a lot of folks work part-time. Again, part-time is just like variable, right? Because it's going to vary. So part-time employment does require a 2-year history of part-time employment. It doesn't need to be with the same employer, like you asked earlier. It could be with different employers. But there needs to be the 2-year history of being part-time. Are there any questions?
Yeah, you mentioned the child support. Is there at Citizens, is there a 2-year forward requirement on that? I know that's been in the past. Is that still in effect today?
We'll need to verify that it will continue for at least 3 years.
Okay, so a child that's 17, that
won't qualify.
That income may not qualify.
Well, if the divorce agreement states that the child support's paid through the age of 18, then we're not going to be able to use it.
Gotcha. Okay, good.
Mm-hmm.
Good to know that.
And of course, when I would talk with anybody in this workshop on one-to-one, like your personal situation would, of course, be kept extremely confidential. And I would walk through your personal situation and give you your answers directly. So there are going to be a lot of details here, and I'm so happy that you're asking the questions, but that's the only reason why I didn't go into greater detail, because it's hard when we don't know the exact situation.
Everyone's case is so different. All right, so we went
Absolutely.
to page 2, qualifying for the mortgage, page 2, assets.
Okay, so assets. Again, this is money that you currently have deposited in a checking account or a savings account, not in a safe that you have in your basement or in a drawer or under your bed. And I'm not kidding. I had a customer once who told me he had all his money. I found out the hard way, by the way, that he had all his money in a jar. And I'm not kidding, in a jar. And I said, can you send me a photo of that? Well, cash is bad when you're buying property. We can't use cash. Why? Because a bank cannot verify where it came from. Not that, like, for example, we might have had deposits made from a recent wedding, for example. Those things we can go back and verify. I had a customer who sells scrap metal and puts all the money in a drawer. It was very difficult. So what we did, and we ways around it, right? Because I want to help people buy, and a lot of us get our money legitimately, not the way a bank might require us to have it. But what we did was his mom was able to give him a gift of money, which we, of course, traced and verified for the amount of money that he needed. And then what he did was he paid his mom back with the money that he had in the drawer. So there's things we can do when those situations occur. But I'm going to encourage all of you, if you do not have a checking or a savings account, I'm going to encourage you to open one tomorrow. Okay? And your money will need to be verified. And how do we do that? The next item, 2 months bank statements of any money that you have in the bank. And that's to verify that the money wasn't borrowed, because we're going to see if there's, for example, let's say your account has $5,000 in it, and then 2 weeks ago there was a $4,000 deposit, but there's no source of where that money came from. It was just a deposit. That's not going to work. Like, where did that money come from? Again, we will source and verify every penny. And one of the most detailed parts of buying property is the sourcing and verification of assets. So if any of you have money in a drawer, or hopefully not in a drawer, I would just encourage you to keep all your money in the bank. And like I said, if you haven't been doing that, I would start. And if there is a way to get a gift for a temporary time in order to allow you to purchase sooner, because you do have the money in a drawer, again, I'll work through that with you and we can have that conversation one-on-one. So gifts of money are absolutely permitted. I mean, we have a loan program that allows every single penny that's needed to buy a home to be gifted from a family member, mother, father, sister, brother, so forth, grandparents. Okay, a gift of money. So if I'm the mom gifting money to my son, I will write him a check. He will deposit that check. They will verify that the money came out of my account, and I have to provide that information. Then when the check goes into his account, we will verify that the money is in fact there before we will allow my son to close. So money is looked at very closely. This all started with 9/11 and money laundering, by the way. And I know it's been 25 years, but a lot of things have happened in between then and now. And these are now the guidelines that are in place. So while it might sound strict to all of you who are hearing this for the first time, when you talk to me about that, it doesn't sound anywhere near scary. Okay, I'm doing an overview, not talking about your personal situation. And I'm telling you, I never leave a rock unturned. So situations occur every day that some people might think, oh my goodness, I can't do anything with that. Well, that's not the case. I usually can find a way to make things work for folks who aren't black and white vanilla buyers. Most people aren't black and white vanilla. Okay. So we talked a little earlier about closing cost assistance or grant money. So for first-time home buyers, we have programs that are available, which are wonderful. And qualifying for that assistance is going to be determined by, there's income limitations, because the reasoning behind our offering closing cost assistance is to help people who make less than the amount, and it's not determined by us. It's a large program, but not determined by us, but we do abide by those guidelines. Or if the property is in a location that qualifies for grant or closing cost assistance. So for example, I use this all the time, and it's truly true. I could have someone who makes $500,000 a year, but they happen to be buying a property that is in a location that qualifies for the grant money. They can get the free money, even though they make a lot of money. So I can talk through that with each of you individually to see, where your income is. I can show you what you'd qualify for, and you can see how I'm showing it there, that assistance ranges from $3,000 to $7,500. That's where it is now, and that is subject to change. It has in the past been higher, and it has in the past been lower. Right now, this is our range based on loan program, income, etc., credit score. All those things matter. And I can talk through this with you. I'll be able to tell you very quickly how much grant money or free money you'll qualify for. Are there any questions about that?
I wanted to interject two things on that, Toni, that I think about. So cash is not bad. It's just, I think right in that sentence there, it says required to verify the money's not borrowed. That's the bank's fear, is that you borrowed the money and maybe there's a loan that they haven't taken into account as far as your debt to income. And it goes back to human nature, right? If you have no money into it, if you've only using borrowed money, you're not as committed to the project as if you have a little skin in the game. So I think that's one aspect of the cash. And then you mentioned the gift. To anyone out there who's listening, this is one area that can blow your deal up if you don't follow your loan officer, like Toni, like if you follow their directions. There are specific things that need to be done in order to do it. And so clarity and instructions on what to do, I think it will go a long way in making this easy for anyone out there who's considering a gift. There's a definite process that needs to be done. But I've had cases in the past where monies were transferred without the documentation, and it just blows up the deal. So be cautious when you line it up. Talk to your mom and dad. Yep, you want to give me money? Great. How much? Great. Let's wait for instructions on how to do that.
That's right, and we provide everything to you, and I walk you through that step by step, and I'll send you an email step by step with what you do. None of my customers have a problem. I've never had a gift of money blow any loan up, ever. Good. And I'm being truthful. Mm-hmm. Right. Okay, it's not a difficult process. It's just detailed. That's all. We're just verifying where it came from, that it's an eligible donor, and we verify that it's in your account and that it's now yours in order to be able to use it. It's called a gift because, and we don't care if you pay mom back, if mom gave you the gift, but a gift of money means that there is no obligated payment, because that could affect debt to income ratios. But again, I'm telling you very clearly, we don't care if you pay mom back. But the gift letter says that mom is not expecting, at least on paper, to have you pay the money back. So we provide you with a gift letter that states the donor, meaning mom, you, the recipient, the amount of the gift, where it's coming from, if it's been transferred. It's very clear. We have it all ready for you. All you need to do is sign it, because I get all that information from you up front. So we prepare it for you, send it, then you and mom or dad, whomever, both sign and return it to me. And then we use that money as assets. Make sense?
Yep.
Okay. Any other questions about that? Okay. The next item are debts. Now, we all have debts, right? That's a kind of an ugly word, but we all have responsibilities. We all have minimum payments of what we pay on a monthly basis. So the debts that we look at that affects your debt to income ratios, I'll talk about that in a little bit more detail. These are the things that we're going to look at and count. And I say all minimum payments. So you might have a credit card and has a minimum payment of $35, but you pay $135. And that's all well and good, but we're only going to count 35 because that's your minimum required. So we will look at student loans, personal loans, credit cards, as you can see listed there, car loans, alimony, child support if you pay it, not receive it, and the mortgage payment, including taxes and insurance. Those are the things that we look at when looking at your qualifying based on your income. So the next screen is going to show what we do with the rest of the money. But let me also say, for those of you who may have student loans and they're currently in deferment, meaning you're not making any payments, the credit report will show clearly that you're not making any payments. We will use either 0.5% of the balance for one of our programs or 1% of the balance for the others as a payment, because you will at some point pay them back. It's not free money, right? So we have to count something. Otherwise, we could be setting you up for default, which is what we're looking to avoid. Are there any questions about that? Awesome. Can you go to the next screen?
We are on page 3, qualifying for mortgage debt to income ratios.
Okay, debt to income ratios. I put the acronym because people will use it, and I wanted you to know what it is. I don't like acronyms, but I just wanted to help educate a little bit. So DTI, debt to income. So we look at it's always going to be your gross income. I wanted to verify that. It's always your gross, not after taxes, taxes and insurance, etc. That's your net income. So we're going to look at your gross income before anything's deducted. We're going to look at your pay stubs, W-2s, tax returns, whatever your income requires us to do. Okay? Number 2, the monthly debt payments are verified, and the credit report will confirm what they are. So it's going to show me what you're paying on a car payment or what you're paying on a credit card or whatever you might have. We're going to use that payment that's shown on your credit report. Okay? So your total DTI, debt to income, that's the portion of your income that includes, again, the entire mortgage payment, tax, principal, interest, taxes, and insurance, because they're obligations. When I say revolving and installment payments, revolving means credit card. It just revolves. You use it, you pay it back. You use it, you pay it back. Installment might be like a car loan where you have it for 4 years and then it's done. It's not revolving. You pay the same amount every month and then it's done. So we're going to be using and adding those monthly payments compared to your income. That will allow me to calculate what your debt to income is. And I've given you an example. I'm going to walk through this, okay? If your gross monthly income is $2,000, and again, I picked a number because it was easy, and all your revolving and installment payments, including the new mortgage, cannot exceed $1,000. So that means that it's 50% of your gross income has to include all of your liabilities every month. Again, car payments, credit cards, student loans, that kind of thing. Look at the very bottom line where I state the remaining 50% of your gross income is to cover your everyday living expenses, food, utilities, medications. Like a lot of people forget, there's things that we do every single day. Like there's, there's dry cleaning, there's gasoline, there's gifts. You go to Hallmark, there's birthdays, and all those expenses. That's what the other 50% of your income is used for, right? So we will allow, and there's some programs. I have one actually that will at times allow me to go over 50% of the gross income. And trust me when I tell you, I leave no rock unturned. I'm going to look at every possibility in order to get you an approval based on what you have. I start with where you are. What is your income? What are your monthly debts? What can I get you approved for? So maybe you wanted to buy a $90,000 house, but I can get you approved for 80. And then we're going to talk about that. And then you're going to see if there's a home for 80 that you would like to buy. So I'm not going to say, oh, sorry, can't help you. No, it doesn't work that way. I have to meet you where you are and help you move forward with what you have. And I could say, okay, in order to buy a higher priced home, maybe you need to have a little bit larger of a down payment, because that would bring your loan amount down, right? If you're putting more money down, then the amount that you're borrowing would be less. If you've got a lower loan amount, then your payment's going to be lower. And that could allow you to qualify for a higher priced home. Okay? Or you might have a credit card with $400 on it, but the payment's $90. Okay, let's get this puppy paid off. Then I've got $90 more of income that I could use towards a mortgage payment. So I'm going to dissect what you have in a very kind way, truly, and help you see what your choices might be. It's never black or white. It's not good or bad. It's not one or the other. It could be a very, very gray, mushy area. But that's what we do. We just work through where you are in order to help you purchase property. That's really what you're hoping to do, right? And I will work with everything that you have and try to uncover other opportunities. Like I had a customer who just did not qualify for the home that she wanted to buy on her own. And my first question was, might there be someone in your family who could be a co-signer? In other words, I would use their income and, of course, their debt to help you qualify. And she said that perhaps her dad could be a co-signer. I mean, we do that all the time. I learned the hard way a long time ago, back when I was new in the industry. I felt uncomfortable asking, and I should have, because there was opportunity that perhaps I didn't uncover. So I learned long ago that I'm not uncomfortable trying to find a solution. And some people say, no, there's absolutely no way. There's no one who can help me. Okay, that's fine. Is there any other asset that you might have? And some people have 401ks and they don't want to borrow from, and I completely understand. And so I'll always say, well, what makes you feel worse not buying right now or borrowing from your 401? And everybody's answer is going to be a little bit different. It's not a judgment scene. It's for you to make that decision on your own. Does that make sense? Are there any questions about income? I know there's a lot to unpack there, but I try to keep it simple.
Yeah, and to anyone out there watching and listening, if we've had a chance, if you and I have had a chance to exchange information, you know that the ratios that we use would be 41%, which follows FHA guidelines. So what Toni shares is that maybe that's not an absolute.
It's not. No, FHA allows me to go. I mean, I got a 59% approved last week.
Which is concerning to me, but I get it.
Well, there were other compensating factors that allowed FHA to issue that approval.
What would those compensating factors be, Toni?
It could be the length of time on their job. It could be the amount that they do have in a 401k that they're not using.
Additional reserves.
It could be a high credit score. I mean, I don't go to FHA just because there's a 620 credit score. Okay, it could be a lot of reasons. I mean, risk could be low for other reasons. Like I said, they could have a high score. They could have like I said, money in a 401k. They just don't want to use it, which is totally fine. So there could be things like that, time on the job, etc.
Good. Good.
Okay.
My point to my people is, there are other things out there that maybe we need to talk to someone about and see if that would open up some potential for you. So, all right,
Yeah,
the
that's
next
right.
page. Credit
Okay.
profile. Yeah.
Last but absolutely not least, okay, credit is so very important. And you know what? Not everybody has had the ability to keep their credit maybe where we would like it to be. And hey, we've all been there. But there are ways to improve. I mean, tomorrow will come, right? I look at it like that. Let's look at where you are. If there needs to be changes, we can absolutely help you do that. So what I wanted to do was, we will take a look and I will discuss in detail what your credit report includes. And I'm going to explain it to you. And what I love to do in that scenario, truly, it's so much better if we can meet in person. And I'm happy to do all of this in person. But, when we're looking at your credit report, there's so much detail on it. It's better if we can sit together. But having said that, I just wanted to show you the kind of things that impact your credit score. So on-time payments, 35% of your score is based on on-time payments. So what's the key there? Get your payments on auto pay. Pay your bills on time, especially when you do have a mortgage. But up until then, try not to be late on anything, truly. Utilization of revolving credit. That means if you have a credit limit of $1,000 and your balance is, go with me, $900, and you've never missed a payment. Okay, you think that's awesome, right? You never miss a payment. But when your balance is hugging your limit, that's a sign of risk that your credit card is up that high. So the ideal, and I don't have it here, but if you could take notes if you're writing, you'd like to see your credit card balance be 33% or lower of your limit. Now, a way that some folks can increase their score is by, if you've made all your payments on time, you're cool, right? You're doing everything the way you should, but you might want to boost your score a little bit. You could ask that credit card to increase your limit. And that's going to give you more variance in between your limit and what you owe. Okay? So again, based on where you are, let's just say that your score will allow you to move forward. If you see the very last sentence on this screen is, our minimum score is 620. Scores can be as high as 850. I don't think I've ever seen an 850. I did recently have a customer that all three scores, Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion, they were all over 800. That doesn't happen very often. And I will tell you, they don't need to be over 800. Okay, if you've got a 620 score, you're going to qualify for the majority of the products that I've got available for you. However, if you want to, and I'll say to you, hey, you're young, you are going to want to buy things in the future. It may not be a home because you're buying one now. You may want to buy a bigger. You might want to, whatever. You're going to need buying power. So I could absolutely help you learn what can you do in order to increase your scores. Tomorrow will come and go anyways, like I said. So having a little bit more knowledge, doing things maybe a little bit differently is going to allow your scores to increase. And I'm not kidding. Short story, customer came in on January 3rd of last year, not this year, it was last year, wanted a pre-approval order to buy a house. So I did it very quickly. Lo and behold, his credit score was 586. Okay, so we need a 620 minimum. So I went through the credit report and dissected it. And fortunately, this gentleman happened to have money in his 401k that he was able to pull out, because we talked about what amount had to be paid against every single credit card that he couldn't pay in full. He came in that afternoon. He had a savings account that he could access before the 401k. And he got cashier's checks, sent those payments, and we re-scored his credit in a month. In 1 month, it did take a month. His score came up to 636. Okay? He was able to buy, and we closed him 1 month later, or however long it took. But my point is, just because a score is where it is and you don't qualify today doesn't mean you're not going to qualify next week or next month, or it could take a year. We need to see where you are, and then I can help you get where you need to be. So it's not good or bad. I don't really care what happened. Now, you might say, okay, here's what happened. I thought I was doing everything well, so I'm going to talk through that with you and maybe give you a few pointers or help you know what to do that could increase your score. So that's why I wanted to show you the things that impact your score. Like if you've got brand new credit, you could see length of credit up there in the middle section, 15%. New credit, meaning you just opened 2 or 3 accounts, Best Buy, you bought a car, or what have you. It does have impact, but there are ways to counter that. And again, we see where you are, see what you owe, and then I can then, again, based on where you are individually, tell you what you might want to do. And when people listen, they really do improve their scores, and they really can buy property. I had a couple, this was probably 5 years ago, both of them got teary at closing because it took them almost a year, but they listened, and they did exactly what we talked about, and they were able to buy, and they were able to close. And they were so emotional. It makes me emotional just talking about it. But those are the kind of things that we can do. I really do care about helping, not just about doing a mortgage for you. That would be lovely. But it's not always that easy. Some things have to be done first. So are there any questions about your credit report or your credit profile?
Toni, we're coming up against the hour, and I still got about 3 more
Okay.
screens, and I got some questions here that people sent in. So, we got to
No, that's
close
fine.
this down. Yeah, we don't want to close it
Well,
down.
this next screen is not urgent. It's just giving you an idea, an overview, and this deck is going to be sent out to you if you so want it.
Okay.
But these are just questions you might want to ask when you're shopping for a mortgage. That's
Good.
all. It doesn't. I don't have to go into detail about that.
Okay. So here we are on mortgage process.
So this is exactly what happens. I'm going to read through it, and it truly is not harder. You get pre-approved. We talked about that. And that determines what amount of home you can buy. Like, what is the maximum purchase price based on how much money you have, how much money you earn, what your monthly payments are. You select a real estate agent, or you can ask for a recommendation. I've worked with realtors forever, or you can talk to a friend or anybody that you would like and work with a realtor. Strongly recommend that you do that. Then you search for a home based on your pre-approval. You find a home you like, you make an offer. Actually, the realtor does all that for you. They write up the offer. And then if you're lucky enough that the seller agrees, you obtain a sales agreement, the agreement of sale, meaning that they agree to sell you and you agree to buy for X. And then you provide your lender with a copy of that agreement and all the other income asset documentation that's required. The loan is submitted to underwriting internally by us. We do all that. When it's approved, you're going to get what's called a commitment letter, which is another word for your formal loan approval. Anything that's on that commitment letter by the underwriter, maybe a pay stub was cut off, or maybe they want another pay stub, or maybe they now want 2 W-2s, whatever. We collect all that and we get you ready to close. Okay? It's really that simple. And again, I'm happy to walk through all of this with you, one-on-one. So the very last page, home ownership and beyond. I mean, having a good financial profile is important for the future. So we talk about that as well. It's not just about a mortgage, but that's a large part of it. That's why we're talking today. And so we'd like to become your trusted advisor, and that's really what I aim to be for the people that I work with, not just getting a mortgage, but really helping you. And I have people who call me back all the time. So if you would like more information, or if you would like to have a one-on-one, no obligation ever, really. Just have a conversation with me about your situation. Your call is very, very welcome. And I put my name and my phone number, which is my cell phone, at the very bottom. And you're welcome to call that number at any time.
Tony, I mentioned we had a couple questions, so let me get those up here, and if anyone else has any last minute questions, get them in the chat box. Uh, Certainly appreciate your time and your knowledge, Tony. It's been super helpful this tonight. So the one question came in and says, how can I increase my pre-approval? So I thought that was a great question. How can someone increase their pre-approval?
You mean the amount of money that they're qualified to borrow?
They didn't say, but that's what I would take it as.
Okay, so we either need more income or a larger down payment. So what a pre-approval will say is the amount of money that an individual can borrow based on income, debts, right? Money down. So maybe we pay something off and we don't have to count that payment, then you can have more buying power.
Yep.
Or maybe you do take money from a 401k. Maybe it's not a whole lot, so the penalty won't be high, and you've got a higher down payment, so your payment comes down lower, which means you could buy more. You could have a higher purchase price.
Right.
Or maybe we look at...
Shouldn't be a penalty if you're buying a home with a 401k, but I get it.
Well, some plans are different than others, that's all.
Okay.
And when you do borrow from your 401k, you're paying yourself back with interest. You're not giving that money to anybody else, but there will be a payment to pay yourself back, by the way.
And you count that payment, correct?
I'm sorry?
Do you count that as a payment?
We do not.
You don't count a 401k loan as an obligation?
No, because that's your money. We do not count that against debt to income ratios.
Huh, that's interesting.
Yep. It's your money.
Right. Okay.
Yep.
But you don't have the choice to stop.
I'm sorry?
You don't have the option to stop paying, right?
No, you will want to pay yourself back because you want to build your 401k back up.
Okay. Here's
But
another
no, you
question.
will.
I thought this one was interesting. So it says, I need to pay off my vehicle from the sale of my co-op. Can I still be approved as long as they have that info?
We will want to verify that the vehicle has in fact been paid.
Yeah.
So that happens all the time. Like I might have somebody who owns a home now and they're going to buy a new home and they're going to sell the home that they have and they're going to use the money from that home in order to buy the new home, like what they're talking about. Well, we will verify that the home that they're living in that they're selling has in fact sold before we'll close on their new house. So as long as we can verify, and we will in writing from whoever is holding that car note, that car payment is paid in full, it's not held against you. So in a pre-approval process, and you tell me that's what you're going to do, I'm going to omit that car payment so we can see right up front what you'll qualify for without that car payment.
So, and some of the proof might be, if you sold your co-op, I assume there's some legal documents, and one of your things,
Yep.
Itemization of what happened in the sale of that co-op might be the payoff of a car. So that might be super solid way to do it. So, yeah, great question out there. So I'm looking.
Yeah, that was good.
Yeah, I'm looking at the chat box. I don't see any questions that have come through from anyone in the room tonight. So, good. Toni, I can't thank you enough. A lot of what you shared is so insightful. Some things I learned. I mean, that there's some great information there that I need to consider going forward as we talk about some of these different things. So
that's awesome.
I appreciate you kicking this off for us this year. Citizens has always been a good partner to MVI, and we certainly appreciate that relationship that we have with you and the bank. So certainly thank you so much.
You're welcome.
For everyone here, we're going to have, I'm setting up another home buyer club. It's going to be May 1st. Same time, same kind of format. So be looking forward to that. We'll find out who's going to do a presentation that evening as we help you as you're working towards reaching your goal of being a homeowner. So, Toni, once again, thanks so much on behalf of MVI. We certainly appreciate you sharing your knowledge with us. Thank you.
Gosh, you're so welcome. I really do encourage any of you to place a call to me. We'll just have a conversation. There's never an obligation. I truly am most interested in helping people become homeowners. And I mean that genuinely. So a one-on-one personal conversation, I really believe can benefit you. So just so you know that it's welcome at any time.
Thank you, Toni. We appreciate you helping us. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, everybody. Drive safely if you're home, not home.
Thank you.
You're welcome.